For as long as I can remember, a vintage Parker Brothers Ouija board languished in our closet, cloaked in dust. As a child, its presence intrigued me, a peculiar forgotten relic. To my innocent eyes, it seemed like a peculiar board game until the day I unraveled its true purpose. With newfound knowledge, I retrieved it from the shadows of that closet. I cajoled my brother Silas into joining me for a session. Reluctantly, he agreed. Together, we placed our hands on the planchette. I posed the usual naive questions. Is there anybody there? Will you answer me? Silas, with a mischievous grin, nudged the planchette, feigning an eerie response. Yet, no genuine reply emerged. Boredom set in, and we packed it away. That night, in search of answers, I delved into the dark realms of the internet. Whispered secrets revealed that a Ouija board thrives in a dimly lit room, candles casting flickering shadows. So, when our parents left, I gathered 6, perhaps 7 candles and persuaded Silas to try again. I lit the candles, their flames dancing in the darkened dining room. We settled around the table, the only illumination the gentle candlelight. I asked once more if someone was there. The planchette shifted. I accused Silas of moving it, but he swore it wasn't him. I commanded him to remove his hand, and he complied. Yet, the planchette continued its journey. Silas accused me of trickery, but I was entranced. It settled on yes. At 9, fear gripped me with icy fingers. Silas, older and braver, took charge. He inquired if the spirit was benevolent. A tense pause ensued before Silas's hand moved with the planchette to no. We exchanged a look of dread, and I fled to my room, slamming the door. But Silas remained, determined or foolish, I know not. From below, I heard his voice, muffled, then a scream that shattered the silence. I raced back downstairs. Silas stood, clutching his shirt, revealing a fresh wound, a raw, jagged mark across his skin, like a claw. He ordered me to prepare the fireplace, and I obeyed wordlessly. With urgency, he cast the board into the flames, commanding me never to speak of that night. We have never dared touch a Ouija board since. I received an unsettling call from my cousin, Lucian. He told me he, his brother Alaric, their father, and his best friend Dorian were experimenting with a Ouija board in their dimly lit basement. Before they began, they removed a large, unsettling porcelain doll from the room, placing it face down on a mound of towels in the adjacent chamber. Lucian stepped away for a brief respite, frustrated by the incoherent ramblings of the board, and excused himself to the bathroom. During his absence, his father, brother, and friend continued to probe the board with questions. They inquired, "Who is in the other room?" The board erupted with a cascade of random numbers. When Lucien returned, Alaric mentioned that the board was malfunctioning, suggesting they pack it away. He showed Lucien the string of numbers, and Lucien's heart sank. "Dude, that's my social security number," he uttered. A chill crept into the room as they resumed their dialogue with the enigmatic presence. It foretold a grim fate for Lucian, claiming he'd meet his end in the Air Force. With mounting tension, they demanded proof of the entity's power. Lucian spelled out a single, eerie word, doll. An overwhelming sense of dread enveloped them. They hesitantly opened the door to check on the porcelain figure, only to find it inexplicably upright, staring blankly at them from the doorway. Panic seized them, and they fled the house in terror. Dorian, gripped by hysteria, incinerated the Ouija board, spiraling into a brief period of madness. Despite the ominous warning, Lucian inexplicably enlisted in the Air Force and now serves on a base somewhere in Europe. One night, the atmosphere thick with the quiet thrill of the unknown, I invited a few companions over. We had stumbled upon a discarded Ouija board, nestled like a forbidden artifact amongst the refuse. It was complete, with the board and the glass planchette waiting to unlock its secrets. We gathered around, hands resting on the cool glass, our questions naive and mocking, mere parlor tricks. Yet, always, one among us mischievously nudged the planchette, intent on deceiving the others. As the night wore on, the group dwindled. One friend retreated to the bathroom, another surrendered to boredom, leaving me and one other to face the board. With a smirk, I challenged it. "When will I die?" The planchette began its deliberate crawl to the letter T. I chuckled, exchanging a glance with my friend, certain of his mischief. Yet his eyes, wide and sincere, mirrored my own surprise. The glass continued its haunting journey to O, then M, back to O, then R. The realization sunk like lead in my stomach. It spelled tomorrow. His hands abandoned the planchette, which abruptly halted. I was convinced of his trickery, yet his vehement denials left me uncertain. The true horror revealed itself with the dawn. As the sun cast long shadows, I ventured with my dog to the edge of the forest preserve. Without warning, his collar snapped, a sudden liberation. He bolted towards the road. Panic seized me as I pursued, the shriek of a car horn splitting the air, the sound swelling, consuming everything. I hurled myself aside, my foot grazing the vehicle's ruthless path. But fate was not finished. Later, as I sat beneath the whirring ceiling fan in the kitchen, a moment of respite, I rose to fetch something from the fridge. Behind me, an explosive crash. Shards of glass rained down, the table obliterated. The fan lay in ruin, inches from where my neck had been moments before. Decapitation had brushed past me, a whisper of death. Coincidence or curse, I cannot say. Yet the day after the Ouija board foretold my demise, I danced perilously close to death's embrace not once, but twice. This much is certain, never again will I tempt fate with a Ouija board. I have never truly shared this with anyone before. Our home harbored a vast closet, brimming with forgotten relics of leisure, among them an ominous Ouija board. A curiosity had always lingered within me, a desire to test its dark promises, yet the constant presence of my family made the notion uncomfortable. One weekend, fate granted me solitude. My parents were bound for the city, and my brother had a Boy Scout campout. The house was mine. Odd, perhaps, that I found more thrill in communing with an ancient board than reveling with friends under an unguarded roof. The weather was abysmal, howling winds and incessant rain. It felt fitting, as though the storm was a harbinger for the ritual to come. As midnight struck, I prepared the board in the dining room, the lights dimmed to a spectral glow. I posed question after question to the ether, only to be met with silence. Disappointed, I tucked the board away and sought refuge in sleep. But slumber was fleeting. A creaking noise roused me, echoing from the front door. At first I dismissed it. Then it came again, closer now, creeping up the stairs. Alarm bloomed within me. I sat upright, fear sharpening my senses. Another creak, a stair this time. It confirmed my dread. Someone, or something, had invaded my sanctuary. Before the age of ubiquitous cell phones, summoning the police was a distant option. The creaks drew near until they halted just beyond my bedroom door. Time stretched unbearably, each moment a knife's edge as I clung to my covers, bracing for the unknown. A blinding flash of lightning split the darkness, revealing, if only for a heartbeat, a shadowy limb curling around the ajar door. I stifled my breath, willing silence to shield me, but the next event shattered that fragile hope. The door slammed with a force that shook the room, ripping a shriek from my throat. Terror seized me fully now, and I buried myself beneath the blankets, a trembling, weeping mess. The windows were sealed. No draft could explain the violence of that slam. I waited, certain something malevolent lingered, yet nothing came. Only hours later, as dawn's light bled into the room, did I dare emerge from my cocoon. The room was unchanged, yet I was forever altered. With a heart pounding like a war drum, I ventured beyond my room, hunting for traces of intrusion. Nothing. No shattered glass or forced locks. Then, out of place, the Ouija board lay upon the table once more. Superstition has always haunted my steps, and I linked the night's horrors to that cursed board. I hurled it into the outside trash, dragging it to the curb to be rid of it. Since that night, peace returned, but I kept my tail locked away. You see, only those who have faced such darkness could truly understand. They would agree, such a story defies belief. Only those who read my words now know. I am certain of one truth. The Ouija board had been the conduit, and from experience, I warn, dabbling with a Ouija board is a grave mistake. The summer of 2013 was a time soaked in relentless heat and peculiar exchanges. A friend, whose obsession with the arcane was well known, possessed a vintage Ouija board steeped in stories of its value. He offered to trade it for a video game that languished, unplayed in my collection. Eager to seize the opportunity, I agreed, not for the mystery it promised, but for the potential profits it whispered. Alone in my dimly lit room, I tried invoking its supposed powers, yet it sat inert, a hollow relic of deception. Disillusioned, I tossed it carelessly onto the living room floor and dismissed it from my thoughts. But then came the dawn. The morning sun revealed an unsettling tableau. The two plants that had adorned my coffee table lay toppled, soil scattered like dark confetti upon the carpet. At the center of this disarray sat the Ouija board, now arrogantly occupying the table. I stood there, a chill pricking my skin despite the warmth, unable to recall placing it there, unable to fathom how the plants had been disturbed. The air was still, no breeze to blame. I wondered if, in some foggy night wander, I had been the architect of this chaos. Perhaps I had stumbled in a half-conscious stupor, seeking water, unwittingly setting the stage for unease. Reluctantly, I restored order, though the carpet bore the memory of dirt stains. I took the board, its presence unnerving, and flung it onto the floor of my room. That night, unease wrapped around me like a shroud. As I lay in suffocating darkness, a muffled click punctured the silence. My gaze snapped to the closet, where light seeped through its narrow cracks. Bewildered, I rose, my heart a metronome of dread. The closet stood empty, but the question of how the light ignited lingered like a shadow. I extinguished it and retreated to bed, my mind a tempest of disbelief and fear. Minutes trickled by, and the click echoed once more. The closet light defiantly glowed again, a beacon of malevolent intent. Confusion and terror intertwined, constricting my breath. I forced myself to quench its glow again, retreating with cautious steps to my bed. I lay there, anticipating the light's return, but the room had more sinister designs. Without warning, the entire room blazed with light as the main switch was thrown. Panic surged through me, an electric jolt of survival. I fled the room, heart pounding a frantic rhythm. In a desperate bid to end this waking nightmare, I seized the board, now a harbinger of the uncanny, and hurled it into the yawning mouth of the closest dumpster. Whatever forces had been unleashed slumbered once more, and the strange occurrences ceased. Peace returned, but the memory of that night lingered, a ghostly whisper.